Welcome to Weird Faith. Man, we are so glad to be back with you. It has been a long time. There's a lot that has happened since we've been on hiatus.
Yeah.
Christmas happened.
Christmas,
It's New Year's.
New Year's.
The Chiefs just won the Super Bowl.
Chiefs won
again.
the Super Bowl.
Taylor Swift won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Scott had another kid.
Josh finally lost his last baby tooth.
I did.
It's been a big day.
It was a big day.
Yeah.
Tooth Fairy came.
Tooth Fairy
a
got
quarter,
him some money.
quarter richer.
Even with inflation, all you got was a quarter.
Wow.
Dude,
Or did you used to
Wow.
get a nickel?
Tooth Fairy doesn't care. Tooth Fairy don't play by the same rules.
This
as our
is-
economy.
Been man, I don't know what episode are we on? Episode 20
This
something?
would
21?
be-
21?
I think.
Is it?
I don't
We've
know.
covered
I don't
all
think we
kinds of
hit 20.
topics.
I'm-
Hit some amazing funny stories, had some good guests, and we'll do some more of that. But for the next probably 5, 6, 7 of our episodes, we're going to be talking about some weird Christian culture.
This is episode 21.
This
Oh,
episode 21.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about this next little string of episodes here. We honestly could probably just have a podcast on that and
Right.
do 100 episodes of
We
it.
could.
So to fit it into 7 episodes will be fun. But if you've never found yourself questioning or kind of laughing at or making fun of Christian culture and different things that Christians say or do or produce, you're probably not looking hard enough, and you're probably not willing to call those
Yeah,
things
maybe-
cringy.
Maybe being a little bit, taking yourself a little bit too seriously.
But there may be some listening who live under a rock and don't know the word cringy. How would you guys define cringy?
It's giving cringe.
Yeah.
Giving cringe.
Ick.
So like icky just kind of makes you like, oh, I don't want to see that. I'm embarrassed to
Uh-huh.
just see that, or for whoever made that, or said
I grew
that.
up in a church where, we said amen, all that kind of stuff. That's amazing. And I still do that. You'll hear me do that every once in a while. But there was a certain guy, and I don't know exactly, it's hard to know people's motives sometimes, but sometimes he would yell out, "Fire in the hole," after the preacher said, particularly, something he thought was good. Another thing he said was, "Kick that banister." I don't even
Okay.
begin to know what that means. So that kind of gives you a little bit of what we're talking about, like some weird things. If you were a visitor in that church for the first time, having never had any experience with Jesus or the Bible, and you heard a guy screaming "fire in the hole," you would be a little bit concerned.
I'm totally gonna yell that this week while you're preaching. Fire in the hole! Everybody dives under their pews.
Yeah.
No, what's happening?
I had to look it up just because I wanted to know, and you guys hit on it already. It means embarrassment or awkward, typically on behalf of somebody else.
Uncomfy.
So it's not necessarily you're cringing on something that you necessarily did. It's something you're cringing on behalf of somebody
Secondhand
else.
embarrassment.
Yeah,
second
you can
embarrassment.
experience it yourself. Like
uncomfy to see,
like
and
the
experience.
terrible dad jokes will make you cringe. What do you call a can opener that won't open? A can't open.
Yeah.
Like that kind of cringy.
Right,
But
right.
that's
See, no,
that's
here-
borderline here.
Here's
What?
the thing though. Like, I think all of us too, as youth pastors, like there's not a whole lot that can make me feel embarrassed.
Right.
So like dad jokes to me, it's funny if it's cringy to other people, that makes it funnier to me.
Right.
But this is like we're gonna be talking about things that should be universally cringy and embarrassing.
Right.
To
But
look at.
Hopefully. And
Yeah,
this might be probably our most controversial topic so
Yes.
far.
Oh, this
Because there might be some things that you think are great, and maybe they were special to you in some way. And that's okay. That doesn't always mean that it translates to everyone.
yeah, there's definitely gonna be some like I hope nobody gets offended or anything. If
I
you
hope
know,
they do.
but
If you get offended, Jay Weddle at ParksburgBaptistChurch.com. He'll
Yeah.
answer every one of your emails.
He
I
will
will.
take it very
I will.
seriously.
But mostly to make sure we can still be friends and reconcile whatever we destroy in this
Yeah.
episode. But I will say too, we kind of are in different positions. So like not everybody who listens is a pastor or works at a church. It's almost a little bit therapeutic for us, I think, to make fun of things that happen in churches and things that are like things that like other people might expect us to really love that we don't.
Right.
Or like, so Phil and I, like, I feel like when we first really started bonding was looking at like terrible clips of pastors who were just like absolutely like taking the Bible out of context, bullying people with scripture, or just doing like absolutely absurd things in the middle of services. We bonded a lot. Like for a long time, that's all we watched together. It was like, dude, we got to make fun of this thing.
And
like,
then I came on staff who'd never really experienced pastors like that myself. And I know you guys have to some degree. So when they started showing me these videos, it was so uncomfortable for me because I didn't believe it.
Cringy.
I didn't believe it was real.
Yeah.
And then I realized
it was a therapeutic thing for us.
For you all.
It was
terrifying.
Like, no, this is ruining me.
This is
But it is important for us to call out the wrong, which is what you're talking about. A lot of those pastors were taking God's word out of context or using it as a weapon. And it is important for us to be able to distinguish between the right way to influence people and the wrong way to influence people. And guilt and fear and shame, all those things are the wrong way.
And that's ultimately what we're going to talk about today, because this whole podcast that we do is about being weird and being otherworldly, supernatural. What was your other word? Do you remember?
Abnormal.
Yeah. And one of the things we talk about throughout this podcast is that it's okay to be weird, but what we're talking about over the next several weeks is there is a fine line. It was when we cross that line of weird to cringy, because what we end up doing is actually hurting the influence that we can have.
Like, yeah, we'll make fun of it, but it's like what it comes down to is we want Christianity and our faith to be represented well. And so like it feels like when a cringy thing kind of hijacks and like says here's what it is for everybody kind of thing, that's when it's like, no, we got to roast this thing.
And I didn't think there was a better place to start than Christian movies. Cringy Christian movies.
Yeah.
So
TV shows.
TV shows. That's what we're going to talk about, because I mentioned to them earlier, like if you're watching a movie and all of a sudden this character comes on the screen and you know that they are Christian, most of the time it already sits an uneasiness in me, because I know they're going to portray it in an outlandish way. It's like the same thing. Like if there's I'm going to pick on our state for a little bit. Anytime West Virginia is shown in the news, it's like the people you don't want on TV.
Right.
So the same thing applies with Christian film most times, is that when they bring these people on screen, it's like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about some Christian movies. And so we're excited about that. Let's get started with this. The first movie I found that I did not believe was real is called The Velocipastor.
Oh, dude, I was looking for that.
Were you really?
There was a
You knew it
dinosaur
existed?
one. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I didn't think this was real.
I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Most of the ones that I found you can watch. So if you really want to, The Velocipastor. After losing his parents, a priest travels to China, where he inherits a mysterious ability that allows him to turn into a dinosaur. At first, horrified by this new power, I'm just telling you the actual plot on IMDb, a hooker convinces him to use it to fight crime and ninjas.
Yeah. A lot of these are like unnecessarily violent, though some of the ones that I've found too, like really just misunderstanding the gospel altogether. I don't remember Jesus fighting any ninjas. It could have been in there though.
But could Jesus have turned into a dinosaur?
That's the stuff we should talk about in seminary.
Yeah, right.
That's the real questions. I should have asked that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm adding Donald Brash right now.
Hey, Dr. Brash, would Jesus turn into a dinosaur if he could?
Yeah.
Or could he?
I mean, you're definitely, if you're a dinosaur, you're not punching people or putting sleeper holds on people. You're eating them. Yeah. Now it's like cannibalism.
I guess it asks the question, like, is that effective evangelism? To turn into a dinosaur and eat someone?
Maybe.
Or versus inviting them into your home and sharing the gospel with them over a meal. I don't know what's more effective. I've never done either. No, I've never turned into a dinosaur and done that. Yeah, we actually, movie night?
Yeah.
Movie night? Yeah. For those of you who don't know what we're referencing there, Scott always promises me movie nights, and we never watch any movies. So.
Among other things.
But we just talk.
I saw another. I didn't write it, so let me just real quick. There was one called I think it was called Priest, and it was about a pastor who I think he becomes half vampire or something.
Oh.
And there's like a vampire war or something. I didn't get all the info.
Marshall in 2010 for an English class. It was October. My literature professor said, if you show up in a Halloween costume, you get an automatic A on the next assignment. It wasn't necessary.
Right.
I wanted to be like 3 Hole Punch Gym. Like that's as far as I was going to go.
Yeah.
He came in with chainmail made from soda pop tabs.
Wow.
Like he spent years building this
That's
and creating
crazy.
this thing. I was committed. And then he made us watch a documentary on vampires.
Wow.
And according to the documentary, did you know that the earliest account of vampires dates back to the Passover? Not the Passover, the Last Supper, when they ate the body and drank the blood of Jesus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I got up and walked out of the classroom.
Yeah, that's rough.
I said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever watched.
Everything I know about
He's
vampires.
like, it's okay. It's not the same thing. I'm like, no, you're
come on.
get a better
Yeah,
documentary.
right.
Let's watch Twilight if we're going to watch
Twilight's
anybody.
all I know about vampires.
That's all you need to know.
Here's
you got?
one called See Me Dance with a C.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure. Did you see this
I
one?
saw the title, but I couldn't
Yeah.
find anything else about it. I didn't think it was real.
It says the devil tries to stop a ballerina from brainwashing the entire planet. She's a ballerina until she's diagnosed with a terminal illness, and she understandably finds herself heading down a dark path. Got questions, but God pulls her towards the light by having someone attack her, and she realized she had the power to save people by just waving her hand at them and turn people into Christians. And so she would just go around dancing and waving her hands in order to convert people. I'm not sure where that lands on like Calvinism, Arminianism. Animals, can they be saved by her waving? There's lots of different
all dogs
questions.
go to heaven, Phil.
So she just goes around and whoever gets in her way, she just waves her hand. It's pretty, and the devil tries to fight her, like literally as a person. Yeah, there you go. See Me Dance. Am I missing like something about like it's a See Me Dance? I don't get.
That's just so. That's I think a classic example of okay, we're making this Christian film. Let's
Right.
be edgy.
Yeah, right.
And like this is cool.
Let's put
or
a
something
Z
like
on
that. It's
the
like,
end.
dude. This
She's a
is
Christian?
bad.
Maybe that's what it is.
I am a C.
I
there you
am
go.
a CH. Oh, we
Me
can't get into
am a
music
C.
yet.
Not
Not going to do music. That's another
yet.
time.
Me
We have to
am
get
a
Caleb
CH.
Pillars on the show for that episode.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
He'll finally
I
come hang
guess.
out with us.
I'll go ahead and switch gears over to some TV, but I will say some of these things too. I think we could admit that there are cringy factors to them, but I think when you grow up with some of these things, the nostalgia almost makes you like them still.
Right.
So like things like Bible Man and VeggieTales, I'll just kind of throw in together here. I think VeggieTales is actually legit.
I would watch
great.
I love
VeggieTales.
VeggieTales.
Like I would sit down with a bowl of popcorn and watch
Yeah, for
VeggieTales
sure.
and watch
Real quick,
them.
what's your favorite top 3 VeggieTales?
As far as like episodes or
Or
movies,
whatever. Yeah,
I really like the
Fib from Outer Space.
that's a good one.
That's a great one.
I
classic.
like the Nebuchadnezzar bunny
Yes,
one.
the bunny one.
That's my
That's
favorite.
got to be it
Bunny,
there.
who
The
ate
one
bunny?
with is it where they're marching around the walls of Jericho and the purple slushies?
Yes.
Is that
Is that the one
Is
where
that
they're
the same
throwing
one?
fish at him?
No, that's
No.
that's the
That's Jericho, isn't it?
no, that's
Jonah.
Jonah.
Jonah. Yeah.
or which one's the boogeyman?
That's Fib from Outer Space.
Is that from the same thing? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So all-time greatest song though, everybody knows the cheeseburger song.
Oh yes.
I want my cheeseburger. What, you
My
like the
precious
hairbrush?
cheeseburger. What?
You like the hairbrush better or what?
Everybody loves the water buffalo. Is pretty
That's
good.
a pretty good. Man, there's so many. I'm gonna
Dude,
go
Pirates
watch
who don't
all
do
those.
Pirates who don't do anything. Is
Man,
classic
that's
too.
another.
Right.
Did you see that movie?
I did. I went and
That
saw it in
movie was
theaters.
good.
But the opening theme song. Have you heard the like rap
Reliant K?
remix too?
No.
Oh no,
Oh,
there's
I've never heard the Reliant K.
Reliant
version.
K does a version of it too.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So
It's
I love
solid.
it's like Phil Vischer is the one who created that, and he has a podcast called Holy Post, and he talks about like he loves what he created. He does say like there's some things I really wish I would have done differently
Mhm.
because like for example, the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything is a story of Jonah,
Mhm.
and in that is the talking caterpillar,
Mhm.
and like I had kids in youth ministry who like where's the talking caterpillar in Jonah,
Right.
like because that shaped their narrative
Yeah.
of
It
the
was at the
story,
end.
huh?
It's at the end. He ate the leaf.
Yeah.
He wasn't selling.
There is a
carpets
worm,
and-
but yeah, it's
Well, I think they
Khalil, that was his name.
literally stole that from Aladdin with at
Yeah.
the beginning.
Oh, for sure.
That dude.
Yeah.
uh,
So like he talks about like he says that was the one thing I had, but like he did create something awesome.
yeah,
that is-
no, but and so I knew going into this, we all three would like VeggieTales. I think if you were 20 years old and all of a sudden, just found Jesus, decided to follow Jesus, you would watch VeggieTales and be like, what is happening
Right.
here?
Absolutely.
Why are these vegetables teaching people about Jesus?
Right. And even that, Phil Vischer talks more about in hindsight, he wished he would have talked about Jesus more. It mostly is lessons about how not to do wrong, like not lie.
Yeah.
And he says, because that's moralism, which if I am better, and he addresses that and just, we all grow and we all change.
Didn't he create another show?
Yeah,
recently?
It's What's in the Bible. It's on Right Now Media. It's puppets. It's really good.
Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. Bible Man though. If you're not familiar with,
I'm trying to get away from. I just get uncomfortable with Bible Man.
Bible Man is like one of my earliest memories. The church that we grew up in Tennessee before I moved to Georgia, I remember had a library, and my dad would go in there with me after church every week, and they had VHS copies of Bible Man that we could take home and then bring back. So I grew up watching a lot of Bible Man. If you're not familiar with Bible Man, look him up. He's kind of in like a Batman-esque costume, but it's purple and gold, but he also has a lightsaber. So they totally ripped off Star Wars there. I wrote down some of the villains that he fights. You've got the Shadow of Doubt. He was a scary one.
Right.
Dr. Fear, the Fibbler was a good one. And then you also had the Master of Mean. There were some pretty vicious villains in that. But you've got to go watch. Just don't go watch all the episodes. You don't have to do that. But go watch like compilation, like greatest Bible Man moments.
Watch him.
There are some cringy little like catchphrase moments, and Dr. Fear will say something, and Bible Man will start quoting scripture at him, and then swing at him with his lightsaber right after he finishes or something. So there's some solid stuff there. I actually, when I was looking this up though too, I think Bible Man's like made a comeback.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know for sure, but it looked like there's like newer cartoon Bible Man things like on Right Now Media or on stuff like that too.
It's probably better now.
Yeah, it probably is. But
but you give a bunch of people cameras and technology, and maybe they're not the best writers or the best artists. And if we were to go and try and make something serious,
a podcast
I'm just kidding. Or Christmas videos or something. But if we were trying to make something serious, I think it would probably be really bad. So we're not 100%. Being hateful necessarily but I do think people realize, hey, if we're going to do this, now we got to do it right. Christian music has really elevated artistry into, and we'll talk about that. I don't even want to quote any Christian music at this point because we'll have an episode.
That's going to be a great episode.
And some of it again was good back then. You guys are probably too young. Do you ever remember there was a McGee and Me?
I literally is what I'm looking at right now,
dude.
Because as you were talking about that, as far as like earliest childhood memories and going into my First Baptist Church of Parkersburg, where I grew up, there was a VHS in the church library. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I literally was trying to remember what it was called, and that's why I'm reading about it right now.
Just as you were talking about it, I just remembered a pretty early memory of me riding somewhere in one of my friend's cars, and it was one of those like Euro vans that had a TV in it and everything, and us watching McGee and Me, and it just being like, we're celebrities.
I forgot all about that one until like a week ago. There was a nostalgic Instagram thing that
it might be cringy if you went back and watch. I'm sure it probably is. I don't necessarily remember it as that. I think it was just like a little dude that.
Well, it was a drawing,
right?
So if you never heard of it, look it up. This kid has this imaginary friend named McGee, and that's who he draws, and all of a sudden the illustration comes to life. And I had to look up the basic premise is that it's intended to help Christian children grow in the Lord. It's about a normal boy and his imaginary friend McGee, and how they use the Bible to make it through the pitfalls of growing up. So that one was an interesting one. I completely forgot about it until you brought up Bible Man and just the nostalgia factor.
Do you guys remember? I just had a flashback to. I feel like it was called Odyssey.
Adventures in Odyssey.
Adventures in Odyssey.
It was a radio show.
That was a Christian thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't have a problem with that one either.
No, I don't.
It started as a radio show, but they also had maybe movies or shows. You actually can download an app with like all of them, and there's like thousands of these episodes with man, I can't remember the main guy's name.
Is it
Wick
this
or something
kid?
like that?
Yeah, I think I've got it pulled up here. I think I found it.
We're just going to end up reminiscing of things we forgot to put in the notes.
Now we're getting to the
Well, some of those things
are
were just awesome
nostalgically
as
good.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's some of these that we're thinking of now are cringe or not, but you be the judge.
Here's a cringy one. How about this one? The Buttercream Gang.
Is it Cream?
Buttercream.
So
you remember this one?
Is
Is
it a
it
movie?
Apple Creek or something? There's another thing that's similar to that.
I don't know. The Buttercream
Apple
Gang.
Dumpling Gang.
Apple
That's what
Dumpling
I'm
Gang. Yeah,
thinking.
very different.
Very different.
That was
I remember
Don
this
Knotts, I
one.
think,
though.
wasn't it?
I do remember this one. Huh?
Wasn't that
Don
Don
Knotts?
Knotts?
Yeah.
Yeah, Buttercream Gang. Probably if you grew up in the late, you can actually watch this entire movie on YouTube. I kind of fast forward through some of it. I think this was shown in middle school or elementary school, basically anti-bullying stuff.
Okay.
So here's the premise. When a member of the Buttercream Gang gives into peer pressure, his friends learn the true meaning of unconditional love and kindness. Members of the Buttercream Gang share fun, service, and friendship with the small town of Elkridge. That's a great name for a Christian movie. The gang is separate, or a Hallmark movie. The gang is separated temporarily when Pete moves to Chicago for the school year and falls under the influence of a local gang. When he returns to Elkridge unexpectedly, his friends notice he has changed. Pete vents his anger and frustration by forming another Elkridge gang to pick on the Buttercreamers. It makes Scott's life miserable. I'm miserable reading this. As Pete struggles with his conscience, old friendships are challenged, and the boys help him find self-worth and the kindness in his heart. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Just go watch 30 seconds of it. The music is what you remember, like the cheap 90s movies, almost like the synthesizer kind of sound to it, and the grainy static on the screen. Yeah, it was rough.
Man, I gotta go check
The writing was terrible.
Yeah. I remember the name and a little bit of like what it would look like, but I don't remember the story.
The one scene I saw was like the one Scott, the main character, had just gotten beat up, I think, by this kid. He's sitting there holding a piece he's holding a steak on his face. And he's like, I don't understand. I thought my kindness would stop him from beating me up. And like, they was just like, this was what, this was
great. All right. Here's a complete 180 for movies. This one's called Fatal Flaw. It's from 2008. And then the subtitle is Zero Dark God.
Oh, no.
Wow. John Redcher has a crippling gambling addiction, and he placed a large bet on a basketball game, a bet that he lost. John's bookie immediately murders him for being unable to pay his debt off instantly. And the commentator says, because that's a sound business plan that all bookies engage in. You're not going to give me my money now, or you're going to get killed. He's not going to give you his money. So he wakes up in God's basement.
Stop.
And these heavenly angels begin to torture him to get him to admit all the sins that he has ever done.
Man, you hear about the big house.
Yeah,
you don't hear about the big basement in the bottom of the big house.
So this bad cop is interested in trivial mistakes that John made as a child. They keep replaying them, and he confesses all these little things, losing a fight as a kid, all that kind of stuff, and getting tortured until eventually the angel figures out that he's worthy of death, I guess, and Jesus jumps in front of the bullet and takes a bullet for him, like one of those old cop movies where the guy's just about to retire, but someone he takes him a bullet for
Jesus
somebody.
was about to retire?
Maybe, I don't know.
They couldn't retire Jesus.
But John learns a valuable lesson, and in the best way possible, through holy torture.
What is gosh.
So much wrong.
Movie night.
So much wrong with that. But
Jeez.
there you go.
That's awful.
All right. So my next few are actually going to be like movies. This is where we're probably going to be controversial a little bit.
Do it.
Because there will be some people who push back on this, but we can't move on without talking about the Left Behind stuff. Honestly, I've never even really watched all the way through. How many are there? Like 3? Or something?
Maybe.
You count the Nicolas Cage remake?
How many times can you be left behind? All right. How much of a story is there? I don't know. I know I definitely saw at least most of one and just was like terrified as a kid of what I was watching.
Right.
I also saw too, I think by the same creators, there's one called Judgment with Mr. T in it.
No.
And I had never, have you seen that?
I know of it.
That's great.
I don't remember why I know of it.
I think I would enjoy that one.
Just because Mr. T's in it?
Yeah. But the Left Behind stuff just traumatized kids everywhere. So I grew up. I think this is one reason for me. Like, and I know you could agree with this too. Just like grew up in a church that talked very like almost constantly about the rapture, and I walked around constantly afraid that I was going to be left behind. Even like after accepting Jesus, I'm like, if I heard a trumpet, symphonies, I'm out. Like anytime,
Trombone.
But seriously, like if you just heard like a random horn sound or something like that, it'd be like, okay,
even
Phil's still here. I think we're gonna be
the tuba at the beginning of VeggieTales. It's not weird that we have anxiety, right?
Yeah. Or I've seen people do this where they prank their kids, whether they like leave a pile of clothes. And I'm like,
okay. I've never seen the movies. Are people raptured naked?
I think so.
In that,
I think
because that was a common thing back at Camp Cowan, was just to like we do like the
you
cabin.
Can keep your underwear.
No, the cabin cleanup. But the kids that wanted, like the kids that did want to actually do cabin cleanup, they just threw their clothes all over the ground, and it made it look like they got raptured.
Which is
they always lost.
Because then it's like, oh, dude, we have naked kids at this camp. This is not. But yeah, the Left Behind stuff, really anything that plays too much into like, I guess, rapture theology. I don't know. Yeah. Like it's just it's hard to like.
Fear was so we're supposed to look forward to the second coming of Christ, and that there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth, and it's all going to be good. And we were kids going to church 27 times a week and reading our Bibles and loving Jesus as best as we could, scared to death,
terrified still.
That so it just, I agree that there's.
And we'll get into more of that, I think, when we get to cringy production. I know we all have some things to probably speak to there, but I did want to highlight that Judgment with Mr. T because I actually kind of want to watch that one.
That one sounds great.
Yeah.
What's his name from the Rocky?
Clubber Lang.
Clubber Lang. Yeah. I would go watch that.
Dude, it'd be awesome if it was like a spinoff and it was Clubber Lang at the Rapture. That'd be great.
So, you were worried about being left behind. Have you ever been worried about being left out? In such a way where you thought, what if I wasn't a Christian? Would that make it better? Here's your chance to have a second glance. This movie's called A Second Glance. It's about a man named Dan.
Life. Huh? It's a Wonderful Life, but not being saved? Yeah.
More or less.
Okay.
Dan Burgess is a young Christian attending public high school, and he feels like his religion places too many restrictions on him, and he wishes to have just a little freedom from the Bible's teachings so he can be more popular and date the girl he likes. One night, Daniel wishes that he had never become a believer, and the next day, he has a rude awakening. His room is different, his house is dirty, and an angel meets him and explains to him that the Heavenly Father answered his prayer, and now his life is as if he never became a Christian. He soon finds out, this is a great God.
His room is dirty.
His room's dirty. That's my favorite part. He soon finds out that the two bullies at school are now his best friends and enjoys the fact that the girl he really liked now likes him too. But all is not well. He goes on to learn that his younger sister no longer exists because his parents got divorced years ago in his alternate life. He is also shocked when his mom prances off to go on a date with someone else other than her dad, who has moved to Los Angeles. That's where they all go. The angel appears and points out Daniel's his nice car, which he got by betting money on a football game the year before. Daniel says he has never gambled in his life, but
where's the downside for this?
The angel points out that his life is different now.
This is beautiful.
And it's as if he had never been a believer. Daniel also thinks the whole thing is a big prank and he does not believe the angel. I don't know how it ends. But
looks like we're gonna
that's more or less the plot.
Movie night,
the end.
Yeah.
All the different things, like you're going back to like the moralism of like the VeggieTales. This is like the old I don't smoke and I don't chew and I don't run with girls that do.
Yep.
This is the same thing. Like he got a car from gambling on a football game.
Right.
His sister doesn't exist because his mom and dad are divorced, and he now lives in Los Angeles.
And gets 2 Christmases.
He gets 2 Christmases.
Yeah. Now,
his room's dirty.
That's the big deal about most of these is they were manipulative on your emotions.
Yeah.
And many times, like to the extreme, to where you're like, it's just so far out there that
It forces people to think more about that than like walking with Jesus every
Right.
day. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I just feel like those. It's not that there's not a place for like talk about like end times. So,
sure,
like,
right, yeah.
that's part of our theology. Like, but it's like overemphasis on
It's not the point of the
on
theology.
manipulating people to fear something, and it's like, dude, what about walking with Jesus every day? Like,
So you all were-
how does this like spur on discipleship?
So like you grew up like fearing like the rapture. These kids are worrying about their room being dirty, and this is reflecting their holiness.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right, yeah.
Like I can imagine parents.
Cleanliness
Look,
is next to godliness.
You're not saved.
you're
I
not
can
saved if
tell.
your room is dirty.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then like, I mean, okay, so there's a lot of things that are being said. You can be a Christian and live in Los Angeles. Gonna throw that out there. You doubt that, maybe. I don't know. Eli goes there a lot for
Yeah,
work. I mean,
that's true.
Eli.
It doesn't say much.
I'm just kidding. Second glance, go check it out, or probably don't. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that one sounds good.
Do you have you got more?
I got a couple more.
Okay. Yeah.
Or no, I got
what
one
about
more.
you?
I'll hit one more. This one's newer. You guys brought like really good stuff. This one popped into my head immediately though, because we've a group of our guys at the church have talked about watching this. This one came out in 2015, and it's meant to be pretty serious, like a real movie. It's called A Man Called John. You remember seeing that trailer?
Oh yeah.
So I've never actually watched the movie.
Yeah.
But I saw the trailer, and that was enough for me to know that it was cringy. So A Man Called John, I'm just going to read the storyline from IMDb. A Man Called John, also can't come up with a better name. That just feels like we can't decide on a title. The guy's name is John.
Every
They call him
character
that. So
in the old classic movie is John. You can
yeah,
use
A Man
believer.
Called John. It's a lighthearted dramedy about Pastor John Terrell Carson's unusual style of worship. John's church is very traditional and not accustomed to outbursts during the service, running around, taking laps, doing that kind of thing, screaming and dancing. One day, John embarrasses the church along with his family. And the senior pastor decides to reach out to the bishop, requesting that John be assigned to a church more suited to his praise style. So John and his family find themselves at an African-American church where he's confronted by the associate pastor, who later informs him that a paperwork mix-up sent him to the wrong church. First of all, can you guys imagine that being the process?
Right,
Of,
yeah.
Anyway, John's moved to his third church where he struggles to fit in. Will John be able to control his celebration, or will he be moved for a fourth time? So there's so much wrong with
I think he ends up going back to the church, the African American church or something.
So that's the one he gets moved to,
Right.
and he has to like win them over.
Yes.
But
right.
there's a big there's so much wrong with it.
It's very
because there's a lot of stereotypical
right,
things
like
happening
basketball
here.
is talked about.
Yes. So like a lot of like racial stereotypes. Just watch the trailer. It's
You'll
rough.
cringe. If you
There's-
want to know the definition of cringe,
there's
this is it.
a scene. Yeah. So his wife is like, "You've got to stop praising Jesus so loud. It's embarrassing us." And he's like, "I don't know what to do." And he's got this conflict because he's embarrassed all of his family, and he keeps getting moved around. And I'm all for there's different styles
Sure, right,
of
yeah.
worship.
That's
and,
not the point.
That's not the point of it. But there's a lot of like stereotypes about African American church culture where he moves to, and he like it feels like he has to like win them over because he's white. But then I guess one of the points they're trying to make is that his praise style matches
Right,
better
yeah.
there. But he there's a scene in the trailer where he's like trying to get to know the kids. And he walks up and he's like, "You guys play basketball?" And then they're like chasing him off, and he's running like Gumby or something.
Yeah, it's just
it's bad.
there's a lot. wrong
I've
with
never watched it. I know that it's terrible. Maybe this was weird to even bring
It
up.
does get a 6-star out of 10 on IMDb.
That's not bad.
Not terrible.
That's like
I
3
guess.
times higher than an average Kirk Cameron movie on
Yeah,
there. Just
right,
throwing that
yeah.
out there.
Yeah. So yeah, that I really still want to watch that one, but
It looks cringy.
It
That
is
one will
the
make you
trailer alone will like
squirm.
make you want to just like go to bed,
Mm.
like never think about anything ever.
What else you got?
The other one I had was I'm pretty sure. Sorry, Sam and Anita, my in-laws. I'm pretty sure they saw this one in theaters. The Resurrection of Gavin Stone
I
came out a
kinda
few years back.
remember the title.
Was that kind of like one of those like heaven is for real type things?
Uh,
Because I know a few of those
Where
have
people
come out
have
in the
come
last
back.
decade.
no, this
Yes,
one
no.
has nothing to do with him being resurrected.
Huh.
Mm.
Okay.
This is a former child star. Gavin Stone is now a washed up, partied out man. When he is forced to return to home, he pretends to be a Christian so he can portray Jesus in an Easter play being produced by a megachurch, only to discover that the most important role of his life is far from Hollywood.
That's a great
That's great.
great
He's
story.
getting it- his plan is to get his career back on track from a mega
doing
church.
a
Well, one thing,
Easter play.
one thing I read was that he was there
Easter
by
play.
like court-appointed community service, and that's
Okay.
why he's there.
Yeah,
So-
like that's what they're trying to get you to do.
Yeah,
Pick up trash, maybe. Be in an Easter play at a mega church. I don't think.
Dude,
it's-
that's how everyone
going
gets their
down.
big stars.
That's why we're
I mean,
here.
That's how we got our start.
We'll talk about this another day. Your dad played God, right?
And
Right.
so, yeah.
That's another episode.
But we actually, our church growing up had an Easter play, and I will actually say it was actually pretty awesome.
yeah. The Easter play was pretty good.
There could have been maybe cringy moments in
Sure.
it, you know, but it was actually pretty awesome. So
Were you
I
sheep
kinda
number
feel like
one in
That's how
the
I got my start.
Advent story.
He was on a cross.
I played the
Thief.
good thief,
The
that,
good
that
thief.
accepts Jesus.
I was one of the.
I'm so proud of you.
I got
people-
like literally like whipped and was like almost naked on a cross
Yeah, it was
with
pretty intense.
blood and wounds all glued onto me. No, it was like legit. But
Now
some of those,
he's squirming now.
yeah, no, you have no
Here,
idea.
Look, I was carrying blind Bartimaeus. No, not the four friends
Oh.
carrying and lowering them down the house. And
Oh, that's nice. You're a good friend.
I played one of those
You're a
roles
thief.
once I got too heavy to be on the cross.
There
was,
They couldn't lift him up
I did the
anymore.
thief twice, and then like, so this was actually like I just gained like 20 pounds like muscle and they were like, no, it's been much more than muscle since then. But they were like, you're too heavy to
You're
pick
too
up on
big,
there.
boy.
What you got?
So
I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah.
You got anything else?
I've got some other after we're done this section. I've got some other.
I just
Fix it
want to
up.
acknowledge. So, and this isn't like I'm not really completely hating on these kind of movies, but I think these are good examples of acknowledging where like we can be honest where there's a lack of quality in Christian culture stuff. So like the movies like Facing the Giants,
Mhm.
Fireproof, Courageous. I started to not bring those up because like I really think there's good messages there.
Yeah.
Like
Kendrick
I actually
Brothers.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard
Who
of
is
them.
it?
The Kendrick brothers.
okay,
Yeah, they were in
they're like in
Georgia.
Georgia,
Yeah, uh-huh.
like Albany or something like that in Georgia.
Alpharetta.
Anyway, what I'm not doing is hating on those films.
Right.
I really like, and I think I enjoyed all of those.
Right. We talked about that before you came
Room
in.
Was kind of one of those like where like didn't hate it, like good message.
Mhm.
But I remember like when they came out, people would be like, "We got to nominate these for like best movie of the year,"
They
and
can be
like
blind about it.
like
right?
there are like moments in those movies where we can honestly be like, okay, that was kind of a cringy
You
scene.
didn't, you didn't think the football player deserved an Oscar when he carried his teammate
Come on,
100
bro.
yards?
40 more yards.
That guy, Brock,
Look up, Brock.
came and
You are in
spoke
the
at
end
senior
zone.
high convention
yeah?
one year.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude.
Or
he was the best football player.
it was at Parchment Valley. It wasn't senior convention. It was Omega was the old.
Mm.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. but-
No, I'm not saying like I probably shouldn't even gone
Even-
because I don't even know
No,
how
but
like,
there's
like
Your
there
point
can
is
be
each-
cringy
right,
aspects
yeah.
and we don't have to pretend just because those things like might be carry a good message
Right.
of faith.
We
We
don't-
don't have to pretend that they're like top-notch quality acting, top-notch production. And that's no shot. Like it's not like they have that kind of budget to make
Right,
those things
right.
either. So it's not like, dude,
because there
do
are
it
ones,
better.
there are spiritual movies that have big budgets that I'm like, this is absolute a train wreck.
I'd rather watch Facing the Giants than like a Left Behind thing. And
Right.
I'm sure their
or
budget's
even
way-
like what was it?
Noah.
That's the one I
The
was
Russell
thinking of.
Crowe, just
Oh,
don't
yeah,
even do
yeah.
it.
No.
that was
really weird.
When it comes out, it's like Darren Aronofsky's gonna make Noah. Darren Aronofsky is a practicing Jew who is a atheist. Just put all that together, and this is the guy who's gonna make a
Right.
story.
and the Rock Monster.
The Rock
that was
Monsters,
interesting.
and then the movie Exodus was another one with Christian Bale.
Bale.
Oh,
They had
yeah, I
the
didn't see
whitest
that one. I forgot about that.
Egyptians and whitest people. They whitewashed the entire movie.
Right, yeah.
Most Christians didn't see the problem with that. Anyways, but then they also, I think God was depicted as a baby. Like
Another one is The Shack.
the Shack was,
Oh, yeah.
that was kind of a controversial book.
Because it was like God was 5 people or something.
Yeah,
like
kind of
that.
just appears as multiple people.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Buddha and like
I don't remember that.
Muhammad, like other gods were mixed in there too. Or
I don't
something.
remember that part.
That might not be that movie. It might be a different one.
But then there are other ones that I'm like, "Oh, I just can't stand this because of they try to set out with a message and it just no. I can't stand. I'm just gonna throw them out there. The God's Not Dead movies.
Oh yeah.
Just no. I was at the Simply Youth Ministry Conference in Columbus with like 13 other youth pastors from West Virginia, and we got the debut showing of that movie. It was like a week before it came out. I've never seen a room, honestly, of Christians hate a movie so quickly.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Because of the quality, but also it's in a message that was like that just wasn't intended.
Right.
The message that it kind of came across were the evil people in the school systems are gonna tell you that God's not real and you're not going to be able to handle
And
it.
your wife's a teacher.
My wife's a teacher.
My wife's a teacher.
Great teacher.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was just this whole big thing of like it gave a false sense of persecution.
Right.
Yeah.
When we talk about movies, like there's another movie called, I think what you brought it up earlier, but Silence. Was that the movie you brought it? One of you brought it up.
Yeah.
It's about missionaries, Jesuit priests who go over to Japan and are literally killed.
Yeah.
And we're talking about an evil professor.
Right.
Who
and
gets
they
hit,
make
who
sure
gets,
he dies at the end.
who gets hit by a car at the end.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
how I told
And
Phil
while
also.
it's like in the
cheers.
middle
It
of their
really made me-
concert thing. Yeah. It's like, God's not dead.
Yeah.
And then it cuts and he gets like hit by a Mustang or something. He's-
I mean, yes, I understand what they're trying to
I
do.
thought he was Hercules.
But the
like, whatever.
I understand what they're trying to do, but it did send us some pretty mixed signals, and it didn't do well
Well,
within culture because it put us at war
Right.
with culture.
Western Christianity needs to accept that we are living in a very free culture in order to share our faith. And it hurts us and offends those that are in China right now, living in the underground, church and spreading the gospel and growing. And it also counterproductively makes us scared maybe to tell people because I'm not ready to make a big stand, so I'm not going to, share the gospel because, my professor's going to make fun of me or something like that.
I found that some of the common denominators with all these movies that I told him earlier, it's Stephen Baldwin, Kevin Sorbo, and Dean Cain are kind of like in all of these movies.
Yeah. We and it's not just like we're not saying so like, yeah, if you had a professor and he legit was like, you need to agree that God is dead or
Sure.
I'm gonna
I had a
fail you.
professor at sociology at Marshall who said that day one. Who said basically it's like you're small minded if you believe that God exists, which I didn't know that it really had to do with sociology.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was
like
like, okay.
obviously we're not like saying like that's okay either.
No.
But it's like it's like hyper villainizes the professor and like kind of makes it out like that. But what you're saying about persecution too is like there are way bigger issues out there.
Right.
You said you got some other.
So these I wrote down just real quick, and these are movies that I've actually I've seen most of them, but they're movies that are not necessarily Christian movies, but they have a message that is even more sincerely Christian than many other ones. One that really hit me was Les Mis.
Oh, beautiful movie.
With obviously a play a long time, but
Yeah.
but that is a Christian. It's a priest, I think, right? Where Jean Valjean steals all these
the
things
silver.
after this guy welcomes him into his
Yeah.
home. He gets caught, and the priest doesn't make him pay.
He hands him over more stuff.
Yeah,
He forgot
right,
these things.
right.
Yeah, the cops come back with him and he's like, "Oh, you've left the rest of
Javert.
this
Just
stuff."
a beautiful picture of showing forgiveness and love to somebody that has stabbed you in the back and betrayed
Oh, yeah.
you. There's another movie called Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh,
That
so
one
good.
it was probably the most spiritually challenging for me of this guy continually putting his life in harm's way in order to save one more of his fellow soldiers. Here's one. This is kind of a weird one because it's a comedy-ish dramedy. What was that movie?
A Man Called John.
Yeah, same premise. No, this is called Peanut Butter Falcon. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh yes.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
yeah.
that's a
100%.
family you just watched. I haven't seen it yet. It's like a wrestler.
Well, yeah.
So
So
the kid
it's
has Down syndrome.
Shia LaBeouf, and he finds a runaway kid with Down syndrome, and they build this friendship built on
Wrestling.
yeah, wrestling, but also this young man is kept in a nursing home,
Mm.
and just that people don't know where to put him.
Mm.
And he very much Shia LaBeouf's character, whose brother has died and gone through all this, very much sees him as a human and not as a project and
Mhm.
not as someone with less value because and it really presses on our hero complex or savior complex that we have with people, seeing them as a need rather than a person. And this Shia LaBeouf character takes him, to be in wrestling school and all the things that the social worker thinks that he shouldn't do, he ends up doing. He
Yeah.
catches a fish with his bare hand. It's a really cool, like beautiful story
It's awesome.
of just seeing people with needs as more than just their need. Uh, Another one is the Mr. Rogers movie, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks. Really anything Mr. Rogers, even just watching the show,
Yeah.
just how much he cares about people, how well he listens to
Yeah.
people, even children, and how much he cares for them and their legitimately caring about their fears and their worries and their hopes and dreams, and seeing Jesus through his, obviously Mr. Rogers was a man of faith as well, but just heartbreaking compassion. Here's another. This is kind of a outlier, and this is the last one I think I got. But A Quiet Place with
Oh,
John
watch that movie.
John
That movie's
Krasinski.
so good.
Krasinski,
Blunt.
Emily Blunt. But you would get this beautiful picture of a family, and it edges I guess a horror movie maybe.
It's a
There's
thriller.
a
It's a
monster
thriller.
movie, yeah.
So good.
And
though.
But this family building it shows to our resilience with people. If you've suffered through abuse or all those different types of things in your life, it shows humans' ability to still make a home in chaos, and still have hope of having a child in this world that just doesn't make sense, and just a father's love and a mother's love for their kids, and just a beautiful picture of love in a family. So that's what we should maybe aspire for, rather than you know this is what happens if you lie or don't clean your room, or
Right.
those silly kind of things. Like, show us unbridled fruits of the spirit of
Yeah.
love and joy and mercy.
I remember
what those
one.
things look like.
Like on that note, I remember right before I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2, a
Mm.
friend of mine, because it was getting some hate as far as it wasn't as good as the first one. But a friend of mine says, I challenge you to go see the gospel in that movie.
Yeah.
So I went to see it in theaters, and the end of that movie, spoiler, when Yondu sacrifices his life
Right.
for Peter, the son that he's basically
Right.
adopted,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there just bawling. And
Right.
like, this is the
Yeah, that
beauty
was-
of sacrificial and unconditional love. I'm like, and that's the thing is like, there is a movie called The Greatest Story Ever Told,
Right.
with John Wayne actually, but like the gospel has influenced so many movies that are out
Absolutely.
there, and you'll see all these, and you can find it in almost any movie.
Any
if you're
good
looking for-
hero is Jesus.
Well,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like we love it's because we're so drawn to rescue and sacrifice and selflessly laying down to be a hero. Like that's the gospel.
Right.
So like I think that's why we love superhero movies so much.
Right.
And we see that the same themes in the gospel.
Yeah. So when we talk about all these movies, to go back kind of the premise of our podcast, the premise of this series that we're doing, we're talking about, how there's some cringiness within our Christian culture. And the struggle I think we have is that sometimes we go to passages where it talks about like being in the world and not of it. And so the kind of approaches we can take, we talk about little Dan Burgess who gets too involved in the world and gets too close to the things and becomes a little heathen and a little sinner. Or we do the complete opposite, where we go completely the opposite direction and isolate ourselves from the
Right.
world. And sometimes what we end up doing, and there are some cultures who do this, where they isolate themselves so much that they just anticipate, they're just waiting for God's return. And so as long as they're off by themselves, not interacting with the world, they're going to be good, they're going to be holy. But you also have something like, we're going to set up the ideal culture so you can come look at us and just see that our culture is what is attractive. But there's a passage in scripture that I want to talk through. It's from Matthew chapter 5. You probably very familiar with it. It's Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 30 or 13. It says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." Verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden." And so Jesus is using these two images of salt and light. But first, like salt is there to enhance and to preserve, right? It enhances a flavor and it preserves. But then light also illuminates darkness. And Jesus in this story or in his message that he's talking about, he's trying to tell them that as you are in this world, you are going to influence it by
Mhm.
being present in this world. Allow your saltiness to kind of wear off on those around you, let it preserve those around you, and enhance their life, their well-being, but also to illuminate darkness. And how can you do that if you're never interacting with it, or how can you
Mm.
do that if your goal is just to talk about how evil the rest of the things are around you? And in a way, you lose your saltiness by just running from it, but also by overemphasizing your saltiness or overemphasizing your ability to illuminate darkness, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. And so all of a sudden, we now have a group of people who follow Jesus, but they are no longer effective because they've gotten so far removed from what they're supposed to be doing as salt and light in this world. And they've become that point where we're talking about it's like the cringe factor is now getting in the way of the mission of the gospel. Like you
Right.
actually can begin to hinder some of these things. So we're talking about some of these movies, like the story being told is actually ruining the beauty that could be told.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's you talk about just and what we're talking about I think is getting distracted,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And it's so much easier to be angry or to be a person that insults people rather than seeing and bringing hope into the world. Uh, that is what can change it though. What we do when we attack people in the culture for what they do. One of the things that's bothered us a little bit is everybody being worked up about Taylor Swift in the Super
Mm.
Bowl. Like, I don't care about Taylor Swift at all. Like, I don't listen to her music. I know you guys jam to it, probably riding down the road. Uh,
Yes.
but that's how much I've thought about it is like 0%
Right.
because I don't care about it. But people see that as like here's something that I can jump on, and a bunch of other people are going to agree with me, and we can all bond over our hatred of something,
Yeah.
rather than bringing something real that will last and showing not only other Christians but the world something that doesn't exist in the world.
Mm.
So to be in the world and not of the world is to bring something that's not there,
Right.
right? If I'm just going to be like the world and bring all those attitudes and bring all that anger and hate or distrust or skepticism, that's not bringing anything new into the world. To be in the world is to bring something different rather than just jump on
And
the
to use
latest craze of
right.
what
And
I'm
to use
mad at.
Matthew's
Yeah.
word or Jesus' words in Matthew is to bring salt into it because he's saying there is none, and to bring in light because there is none. There's only darkness.
Right.
Yeah. I think the other thing that bothers me about that too is like why do we have the expectations that like Taylor Swift should be like
Right.
why are
A
we
role
holding
model
her to the
too.
same
Right.
standard? Like it maybe she's not a believer. I mean, I don't know,
Sure,
but
right.
so take Taylor Swift out of it. Like are we supposed to be holding these people to the same standards who might not know Jesus yet, or like
Right.
like why do we expect them to like fit into like a certain mold of like influence that we want them to be?
Right.
Um,
We really,
yeah.
really, really like want celebrities too. Like we can't wait till a Christian or like when everybody got real excited when Kanye West
I was just
was
thinking,
gonna,
yeah.
was all of a sudden and now it's been bit him,
Mhm.
because he's a person that probably needs some mental health
Yes,
work
he does.
and things like that. And I hope he has found faith in Christ, but he has not since then necessarily lived that out. And
Yeah.
and the story's not over. Hope can still come there,
Yeah.
but we really want celebrities. And we don't realize that we're being just like the world when we do that.
Yeah.
And when this certain and then we expect that person who was that said some Christian things, said some words, we feel like, oh yeah, someone finally gets us that's famous,
Mhm.
like Justin Bieber, and he's a Christian. He says all these things. And then we put all this weight on them to be the most
Like,
mature Christian
assimilate
in
into
the
the
whole
exact
entire
thing
world.
that we want to
Right.
be. Yeah.
And then tear them down. There's someone right now that is a recent convert to Christ, is Kat Von D. You know who she was? She was on like an ink tattoo.
Yeah.
And she has talked a lot about, she looks a certain way because she's been in the tattoo industry forever, and talked a lot about how her fans have been, who were always there with her, been very supportive of her come to Christ, but that other Christians have said that she's demonic or she's this and she's that after making this public proclamation that she is a follower of Jesus. And we've gotten caught up in the culture, and we of they don't look exactly like me when I want them to, and now I hate them, and now I'm gonna.
Yeah, like
you both-
we don't even consider like, okay, well, this person needs discipleship now and a mentor. Do they have that? I don't know.
Right.
Or do they have someone who's going to steer them in the right
But
direction?
you both said it kind of quietly. The standard that we're trying to hold them to is never biblical. The standard we're trying to hold them to is never the gospel. The standard we always try to hold them to is us.
Right.
Like, well, I'm more Christian than Chris Pratt because he only said God, not Jesus. I'm like, really?
Right.
Like, just be thankful that the dude thanked God in front of a public room, right? But
Yeah, it's easy to pick
all these
apart
people
everything.
and that's
that we
what I
want,
told.
all
I
these
even told
people.
someone recently. I'm like, can you imagine? Going back to the Taylor Swift comment. Can you imagine if all of our marital relationships, or dating relationships, were made public for the entire world to scrutinize? Like the fact that Taylor Swift is one of the most. She was Woman of the Year just recently, right? Or Person of the Year for Time magazine. She's the most popular person on the planet right now.
Sure.
And she's dating a guy who just won his 3rd Super Bowl. By the way, he's not. It's not for money because they both have a lot of it already and a lot of notoriety. He's Mr. State Farm with Pat Mahomes. Anyways, they're being scrutinized just because they're in the public, because they have so many followings. Imagine the billion people looking at you all the time and picking apart your relationships. And I'm like, why are we engaging in this?
Right. And the point is not, hey, be nice to them and be fans of them. The point is, who cares?
Who cares?
Let's be fans of Jesus and mostly talk about how awesome he is.
That's to be the driving force behind it all.
And care about like making sure like the things that we produce are like have value, and like, you know what I mean? Like we talk about all these things, movies and music, and like how it just feels like there's like a lack of quality in some of those things. So like, I don't know, maybe we should focus more on
and other
trying to present the gospel and Jesus in a beautiful way that like isn't cringy and driving people away with overemphasis on terrible aspects of
Paul
things.
talks about being all things to all men so that he might in some way win some. And so it's important for us to be able to talk to the culture, but not allowing it to become us. And as far as like my personality, my identity. So that is also important for us. You might have seen church signs before, that like totally.
That should be an episode.
We've got to do an episode.
Totally just ones that like, oh, you said something that now you don't know it, but that's inappropriate what you just said.
Yeah.
Or
the one I have in mind, I cannot put on this podcast.
Have you
It's so
gotten your
inappropriate.
fire insurance?
Yeah.
Like,
have you seen?
That's not what the gospel is.
Crowder has like a whole, like a lot of his Instagram is touring and taking pictures of
there
church
is one
signs
if we
that he would never want to
if
walk
we do
in.
that episode, there was one in town locally here that inspired me to get on Chat GPT and turn it into a country song.
I'm trying to think
that I will if we do that episode, we will all sing that country song.
Yeah,
that'll be our opening.
But being too far removed from the culture makes it to where we can't communicate with the culture. So there might be good, and there's been times where I've sent a sermon to you and say, hey, look at this, make sure I'm saying what I want to say here. Or, and it's like, oh, don't use that word. That word means this, and this, and this, and this. So we need to be conscious of that as we speak the gospel, that it's spoken in a way that people understand.
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge. So like, and I know we're mostly talking about movies and stuff today, but like music, movies, like it's okay to like something that's not like blatantly called Christian. Like, so with music, like there are some awesome musicians out there who don't identify themselves as Christian artists, and that's okay. And their music is good. And like, I think there's like, we can appreciate good music and say like, Like all things were made to be good, to
Right.
glorify God. And when they're distorted and, endorse sin, things like that, like music that pushes sin, like sure, like that's a different story. But like uh, we can just look at good music and say, even if it doesn't have words about Jesus or something, like this is good and God created this to be good and I can enjoy this and like this glorifies God in just being beautiful.
Yeah.
And like a movie that's not, you know, like all about Jesus or, being left behind or something like that, could just be a good film and it's good creativity. And we can say that God is glorified in this because he allowed these people to have these gifts and he allowed us to enjoy this music. And I know a good friend of ours helps produce music and he's kind of struggled with like, oh, like, well, I have this opportunity to help provide beats or music production for this person, but it's outside of like the Christian hip hop or Christian music industry. What do I do here? And it's like, to me, it's like, dude, like, go be an influence there. We don't have to like, no, like shun everything that's not called Christian blank music, movies, things like that. Like how are we going to be salt and light if we just remove ourselves, build our own little space with walls, and then we can't shine out?
Right.
You know what I mean?
The one thing the world does better than us with music is lament. You don't very often find a good Christian song that talks about sorrow and talks about. And if you read the Psalms and you read, the Book of Lamentations, you're gonna see people crying out. And so those type of songs they can even do better than us at times.
Yeah. Soggy Bottom Boys nailed it.
I am a man
of
of
constant
constant
sorrow.
sorrow.
I've seen trouble all my days.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
I bid farewell.
The worst part of that movie is when that dude steps on the frog.
Oh,
Everything else is great.
Again, the Christian character, the Bible salesman, John Goodman.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to be wrapping this up. Just the main kind of thing we just want to take away is not that Scott, Josh, and Phil hate movies. I think the greatest movie ever made, personally, is Shawshank Redemption. And it is one of the most beautiful stories of sanctification and salvation, of crawling through a river of you-know-what and coming out clean on the other side. That is life with Jesus.
Right.
But all we're taking away from this is that our desire is to be weird, to be otherworldly, abnormal, and I forget the other one again. Supernatural. I can only ever remember two. Not to be cringy in such a way that we're actually distracting others or even ourselves from the beauty of the gospel of Jesus, and to really be salt and light in this world, because the world needs you and it needs me to bring them the message of hope and the message of Jesus, because it will not come up with it on its own. Yeah. That's what we see movies and music trying to do. They're trying to capture something that they do not have, and we have it, and we have the ability to share that.
Yeah,
so.
right now you have a reflection, or two sides that just reflect each other, right? And we need a whole different type of light, and that's what the gospel is.
Yep.
So
Don't.
Oh, I almost cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, It's not me if I don't apologize at the end of everything too. So don't hate us if you disagree with us on this stuff.
Absolutely.
That's totally fine. And again, we have lived different experiences than a lot of our listeners, and sometimes it's good for us to make fun of this stuff. We don't hate Christian music and movies, and we want things to reflect Jesus in the appropriate light and to represent the faith well. So don't hate us for this.
Unless your main character's a puppet.
We'd love if you
it.
do want to provoke more conversation with us, we'd probably all be welcome to that.
Send them to Josh. Jay Weddle at
P.
Wayman
at Clarksburg Baptist Church. S. McClure.
No, leave mine out of
It's
there.
McClure with one C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try that out.
But we hope that you guys enjoy dissecting these different aspects of Christian culture with us. Really excited about that.
Yeah.
Share your favorite ones or least favorite ones with us. We'd love to, because there's some that we probably missed, and if you share them with us, we'll probably relive the trauma of our childhood.
And
if you
what
share
are
them with
some
us.
of the other things we're going to hit? I know we're going to hit music.
That one,
Christian
I think that
sayings.
one probably will be the most controversial.
Yeah, music will be.
I already kind of primed the pump with a couple people talking about some songs that I felt, and I'll tell this story later, but actually kind of hindered my ability to share the gospel, at least with one person. And there was already some pushback on that. So that one will be fun. But yeah, what else we got?
We got Christian
sayings.
sayings. That's the one I'm most excited
yeah,
for
I
because
think
we
I
say
am
some
too.
really weird things.
Yeah.
We're gonna do
Little
Creek don't
cliche
rise.
things and things that people think are scripture that aren't.
Oh, that and
Those-
also the amount of
Cleanliness is next to
acronyms that we
godliness.
come up with is amazing.
yeah.
And like there are pastors who will be like, what do you call it? They'll add a fifth point just to round out the word grace because
Right,
of the
yeah,
first
yeah.
letter and the last point makes
Otherwise,
no
it's
sense.
grack.
Production and plays, that's gonna be a fun one.
Yep.
Fashion and style. We have none of that here, so but we're gonna talk about that.
Pickleball shirts.
Pastors and theology, that's gonna be a fun one. That's not gonna be us picking on pastors. It's just gonna maybe it is.
Maybe the things that they say.
no,
though.
but like we're gonna probably talk about some things that have been said to us as pastors.
Only the things that have been said purposefully. I'm not picking on anybody for making mistakes.
No,
I
no,
do
no,
that
no,
all
not
the time.
mistakes.
It's totally different.
Right. This is
that
bad,
episode
hurtful
will be
theology.
Like yeah. Like
attitudes.
there is a whole I think it's
Bully
still going on
pastors.
Instagram. There's an awkward sermons Instagram
Oh,
page.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
are
yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. Those are like we've all said some things
I
from
made a mistake. Yeah.
what's
Or
the
worship
where did they drop the bomb in Japan?
Oh, yeah.
Okinawa.
Okinawa instead of
like that
Okinawa.
kind of stuff. Like that's the kind of stuff I guess what we're talking about is like just dangerous theology and things that are
Hurtful
just
things.
so painful and hurtful.
Cringy.
We're talking about dating and singleness because if you didn't know this, the church has done a really bad job of what dating is and also saying that, hey, it's also a beautiful thing to live a life of singleness. It's not about you're not half a person.
Nope.
And the last one is cultural icons hijacking Christianity. I mean, we might throw
Talked about that a little bit already.
we talked about that a little
Yeah.
bit. We might throw some other ones in there, like church signs. This could turn into a 30-part documentary. I don't know.
Well, that's getting to that one too. And some of these might intertwine a little bit.
They will.
Like who knows if all of these things get a full episode, but like with that one, it's like I think it's it'll be easy in all of these to like really misunderstand. Like I might not hate this cultural icon, but be kind of anti this cultural icon because everybody wants them to be like the poster child for faith in the public, the public sphere.
All right. Do I get a little controversial?
Do it.
Okay.
Do it.
I like Tim Tebow, right?
Perfect example.
His muscles make me feel inferior.
Yeah, sure. I like him. And I think he's, most of the time he's been a good speaker. But recently, I sent it to you guys, right? Where there was he was the headliner at a women's conference where he was the only man. He was the main speaker and all the rest of them were women. It's like, you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to get Tim Tebow to come. He could come to any other thing.
Yeah.
Not that maybe, who knows? Maybe he knows exactly what it's like to be a woman.
I totally respect and admire like Tim Tebow's faith and his boldness, but I've felt that way with like Passion Conference,
Sure, yeah.
where in maybe a little bit too much, but been like we've got all these 18 to 25-year-olds, 60,000 of them gathering together. It almost felt like, is it just because of his name,
Right.
or is it, you know what I mean? Like,
Does he really have something to say?
and
right
it's
here?
not that he doesn't have anything valuable to say either. Like I've heard him give some great talks, but I hate the like, let's just like Tebow carries this for us and he's the poster child, so we've got to have him here. And like, oh, we're gonna get more people here just because of this name,
Right. The
rather
celebrity
than, like,
part of it.
Yeah,
Right.
the celebrity aspect of
We
it.
know that
and
God's favorite team was the Patriots when he was on the team. Then they got cut, and he wasn't no longer a Patriots fan.
he was on the practice team for like 2 weeks or something.
and Jaguars for like a month.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, yeah.
It's
It'll
gonna be fun.
Hey,
You're
yeah,
gonna-
no
you might-
hate to Tim Tebow. I
Yeah,
think
no,
we
I
all
like-
respect him.
yeah, we all love him. I would want to be his best friend. That'd be fun.
I want him to sign my bicycle.
I want him to be my workout partner. Not.
Oh, yeah.
I want him to like be the one that.
I
Pulls,
bet he
like,
would be so encouraging too.
Oh, yeah.
He probably would.
Yeah, he'd be like John Villers.
Like I'm
on
doing.
steroids.
Like I'm only bench pressing like 20 pounds. He's like, dude,
Literally
you're
on
amazing.
steroids.
on steroids. Yeah, John Villers. If you took steroids, you would look a lot like Tim Tebow.
Wow. That's our
Awesome.
show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, we've talked, kind of recapped what we're doing here. Our point is to hopefully say something and speak something that helps us as Christians or as people that are just interested in what being a Christian is about, is to show what is different and what is weird, what is supernatural and otherworldly. So let's get weird because normal isn't working.
Love you guys.
See ya.